YouTube? Mox Opal back here with yet another review. Kind of going to take a look at one that actually people have been talking about. Well, quite a bit, you know, and everybody knows, y'all know I'm a fan of RTAs and RDAs and all that type of stuff, but not really mesh. I'm just getting into the mesh. I'm more like, here, give me a coil, snip, put my cotton through. Let's clean her up, do all that, and let's fire up and juice her. With the mesh, you gotta be a little bit more careful. So today we're actually looking at the Zeus RTA X Mesh, which we're going to take a look at it, and then also I'm doing a build on it at this second too, so you guys can kind of see the best way to actually cut your cotton inside of there, because if you put it too thin, then it sucks. If you put it too thick, then it sucks. And if you don't put it enough towards the walls, then it sucks. And like the thing all the way around has so many different ways to get a dry hit. So inside the box, you will get a pack of N80 mesh 0.17, basically the nickel kind of chrome, you know, the nickel coils. Just a little tiny mesh. I don't even know if you can see it in there. There's two of them in there. And then you also get a Kanthal one, which I've already used two of the Kanthal. So you get two Kanthal meshes and 4 pieces of cotton, which the pieces of cotton are 3 millimeter in diameter. People think that they're 6 millimeter, but they're not. Like Watufo does the 6 millimeter. If you get, like, say, a profile RDA, a profile dual mesh PS RDA, it's 6 millimeter, even though it's a 3 millimeter bend. Nice try, Watufo. But also inside the package, you'll get your spare bubble glass, which this actually bubble glass is smaller than the one that is actually already on the tank, but they're both the same size technically. One's 4.5 millimeters, one's 5 milliliters, not millimeters. My bad, I can't talk tonight. But depending on how you put everything on there, they're basically about the same, actually, because the chimney, once you put everything in there, you're only going to get about 4.5 milliliters. But also inside of that, you will get the drip tip that comes on it. You'll also get a low profile drip tip. You'll get a high profile drip tip. You will get a drip tip adapter and a box of a bag of tools, O-rings, a bending rod. Which, I mean, they hook you up. There's a lot of O-rings. I already have tools and all that stuff, so we don't need to take all this out. I've already got a bending rod down here, too. That's the same exact one. You got this adapter, though, right here, which is actually cool. This adapter, you can throw in there and put on a 510 drip tip instead of an 810. So that's actually pretty cool. And thank you, Agus, for all of them O-rings. Like, because not many people send that many O-rings, and especially different colors, because there's an orange one, green one, black one, clear one, white one. You even get the spare springs for the little metal spring that's in the middle. You get the spare screws. You also get one of my favorite things that is inside of there, the bottom pin, which goes underneath the tank, which actually, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a squonk pin, or it's a series pin, because I think it's in parallel at the moment right now instead of series mode. So let's take a look at that actually. Nope, that's just a regular pin. So it's actually a pin that goes underneath the spring. Actually, that's the one that you can take up and down for your contact. That's your contact spring. So that's actually kind of cool that they actually give you another contact spring. So it legitimately has every part that you need in here. But I do know for a fact, because I hopped online on the RTA X, the Zeus X RTA mesh, that you actually can buy a squonk pin for it, being an RTA. Because I've seen somebody actually modify one to put a squonk pin in, which I mean I wouldn't suggest with an RTA. Your tank's already filled anyways. What would be the point? Just because he wanted to be able to, like, if it started to dry hit, squeeze more juice up in there a little bit quicker. I don't suggest doing it. It'll actually mess it up quite a bit. Only a fucking idiot would do that. Honestly. Because all you're going to do is shoot your juice back up out the top. So I already have the tank blowing or tearing apart. So here's your chimney. Okay. Normal chimney. Here's a piece right there that goes right on top of the chimney. Nice little logo. Then your top drip tip piece, which actually sits on there and just quarter turn spin, and inside of your tank. Okay, and then obviously on top of the deck, but we're gonna get to that in a second. The deck. So it's pretty easily put together, and on top of that chimney piece, okay, when you go to fill it, you got 2 fill holes and a nice wide bore barrel too. That's actually nice. That's really nice. Alright. And now as you can see, there's the deck. And yes, it is a little long on the sides, but see, you want it a little bit like that. And when you're cutting this, actually, get your coil in there, which I've already dry fired it perfect. Make sure your little panels that are right here on the side where the screws are at are also straight, right with the coil too, okay, on both sides. Don't push down on it to where you're bending it to keep it steady. Just push it down in there lightly, screw them in, take a look at it, and then sit there with your finger on the top and kind of go back and forth. And then you could take your finger or your nail if you got one and hold that plate down while you're screwing it in to where it doesn't sit there and go back and forth. It actually does make a difference, because if you tighten it down and it's cockeyed, that plate, and you tighten it down too much, it'll actually split the plate. You always get a bend inside of your coils anyway, so like a Clapton and all that, you know, you get that little pressure point from it holding there. But if you're running it at a certain wattage and it's cockeyed, you're actually hitting your coil here instead of like the little metal strip that's on the edge of the coil, and it'll actually make a dry hit in your sidewalls quite a bit. And a lot of people see dry hits or dry spots on the sidewalls even after it's perfectly wicked. That's why. Make sure everything is perfectly aligned. And then when you come in, which I don't know where my damn scissors went, I'm starting to get like Grim Green now, just everything's disappearing. Shout out to my boy, even though I don't know you. Grim Green is by far the most, like, if you want to know some knowledgeable shit and you want to quit smoking, literally go hit up Grim Green or Rip Trippers, actually, on YouTube. That's where I learned how to do most of my stuff, actually, and that's where I've spent most of my time of hours and hours and hours and hours of learning things. Okay, so when you come in with your scissors, though, you got your wicks there. You're going to take your scissors, and I suggest getting a smaller pair instead of a bigger pair like what the people do, and you're going to cut downwards on an angle on each side to where it's like that. And then when you come in, see, a lot of people get tweezers, but I found this little tool that looks like this. The old lady had it, and I don't know what she had it for. That actually comes in handy for kind of thinning this out, because then I can get like really in there and get some of them knots out. And then once I kind of get it spread a little bit, then I'll go in there with the tweezers and thin it out a little bit more. But see, just that little bit, it fluffs it quite a bit. And all I'm doing is just sitting here poking and pulling a little bit. That's it. And this tool, I don't even know what it's called. I couldn't even fathom it. Honestly, to me, it looks like one that comes in like a nail kit, like one of them little cuticle things so you can dig in there and, like, I don't know. Who gives a shit? It works. But it makes it easier to do the underneath little tickle, so, you know, everybody like a little tickle. This makes it so much easier. So then when you got it a little fluffed out like that, then you want to come in actually with your tweezers, and then you really want to make sure she's nice and thinned out inside of this tank. Thin it out, like legitly thin it out. Make sure it's everything in here is touching, but out here you have like a nice amount of cotton, yes, but it is as thin as you possibly can get it, because even if this is all touching up here, this right here, if this is not as thin as you can get it, junk. All you're going to do is get a dry hit, because it ain't going to wick properly. And don't be afraid to pull like little pieces like that out. That's why we left it a little bit longer like that, because we're actually going to be thinning the crap out of this to where we're going to be pulling some pieces off anyways. So because this, it actually makes this a lot better doing it like this, because then you can come through, and we're going to go just like this. Trying to make sure I can get all of them pieces right through here, and just give them. See, everybody always come through like, oh, snip all that off. Like, no, because then all you do is you got to go back through and you got to refluff. If you snip that end off, it straightens everything back out, which you want everything straightened out, but then you make it just basically one piece of cotton again when you do that, because you got to put it together so you ain't got a fluffy fucking mess, and then you got to snip again and fluff again. So what's the point? Just sit there and fluff it. Take it with your tweezers. It's cotton, for Christ's sakes. Pull it off. See? Easy as that. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to, you know, learn how to fluff out cotton. Like, we've been doing this for years now on RTAs and RDAs. Come on, people. Why make shit harder than what it has to be? You know, and while we're sitting here doing this and waiting on my slow ass, see, the thing that I hate about this tank, we're going to go through the pros and cons of this tank, actually, while I'm fluffing. Pros of this tank. Tank glass is durable as could be. I have smacked this thing around. I have dropped it. I have tossed it. Everything. Best tank I've ever had. And for an RTA, got some damn good flavor on these, the coils and cotton that you can put in here. Even with the cheap ass cotton, the way this thing fires actually is pretty phenomenal. Even with the coils that we're just running, which was like a 0.4 ohm coil on this thing, which I usually only stick like to a 0.25 to a 0.3. I mean, I don't know. The firing rate, the wattage, and the flavor of like 0.25 to 0.3 is pretty good, honestly. The chimney is good, but the only thing that sucks is that's a pain in the ass is this is why we fluff out and we cut like that too. Because once you actually got to bring it down into your juice wells, that chimney has to fit over it perfectly. There's literally only 2 slots on top of this that chimney can go over top of. So you legitly have to cut it a certain way, fluff it a certain way, and it has to be shortened a certain way. Like, it has to, it's specific, and it really is. But it's not a bad thing to be specific like that, though. I mean, yeah, it makes a little bit more work, but in the end, for this tank, I've noticed, stupid Mike, stay. It's been worth it. I picked this up at full price here not long ago for, I think, I want to say like 35 bucks, something like that. And I know the people inside of my one store here personally, they're pretty good people actually too. A lot of times I get discounts when I go in there because I'm in there so much, and you know, I go in there a lot, and they always ask me, well, what's your preference on stuff? And they'll order stuff that I like, because, you know, a lot of people have been coming in and ordering what I get. So, which actually, the vape place that I go to is actually, it has a website too, actually, to where you can, I don't know if you can order stuff on there, but it does have a website. I think you can order stuff now, actually, because they're getting to be a corporation now, to where they're going, like, global. And it's called Inline Vape. Literally, just inlinevape.com. And they have all sorts of stuff, anywhere from, depending on which county you're in, you can even order THC stuff off there. They have dry herb vapes on there all day long, regular vapes, tanks, atomizers, everything that you could think of, juice lines. Basically, your all-around shop. But here we are. Like I said, quite fluffed out, looks like shit. But we're going to take that bottom, and the reason why we did that is because you want it as thin as possible, and put that real thin stuff that's right here, and we're going to thin that out just a little bit more on that corner. So I don't like how that looks. Go back through, pull that off. Alright, and you're going to do one of them things like a little tuck. You're going to tuck them little thin ones, the back ones, just right into that juice well. You're just going to kind of turn and tuck. And then after it's in there, then we're going to show you another little trick. See that one right there? We're going to go ahead and pull that right off because that's actually quite long and thick right there in that corner. We're actually going to snip that little piece off right there. I don't like how long that one is. That is quite thick on that corner. Okay. You make sure when you're doing this you don't touch any metal tools on that coil either, because it does have a chance of actually messing that coil up and making little shavings that, trust me, you do not want to inhale, and especially then you'll make a dry spot, and then also inhaling like a little metal shavings, just no, don't do it. So don't touch metal to the coil. And see, look how good that one looks. Alright, yeah, it's quite fluffy, but here, you know, I'm going to show you a little trick here in a minute. See, we get all that nice thin cotton. And the rule of thumb is if you can stick in that well, it'll actually be good to go. And actually, when you're putting your wick in this thing too, I've noticed, give it a tug back and forth, just you know, just a little bit back and forth. That way you get a bunch of cotton that touches all the way around in here, and the corners, and these four corners right here that are like tucked on the plates right there. That way it touches all the way over. But you see how you got all this extra up top? This is why we did this, because now you got that, just that little point that's down in here. So then you come in with your scissors, and you can take a little more, just like a little haircut, a little more off the top. You want to do it at an angle though too. Make sure you don't hit your coil though. You definitely don't want to do that. And then come back in with your tweezers and pull all that extra stuff right here on off. And see, now look at it. Now look, I mean, yeah, that one kind of looks a little funky on that corner. We had to take a little bit extra off. Actually, it needs to be fluffed a little bit more over that way. You know, but see? Now, another thing with this one is since that chimney is the way it is, the thing that I always do is I take and I push these in flat. I'll take them and push them in flat. Because not only now do you have just a little thin point down in here, you got all that cotton still up in here, but you got room for your chimney. But if you have to, don't be afraid to come in and like, oh well, I don't like how this looks. Snip. Even while it's in there, it does not hurt it. Just make sure you're snipping it the right way so you're not losing too much cotton, and that you still got enough cotton inside your juice wells too. If it looks dorky, who cares? A lot of people are like, oh man, that looks like... Who gives a shit what it looks like? Because if it works and it juices, and you vape. If you vape, everybody happy. Come on now. Like, quit being so judgmental towards people. Like, oh, you know what? Some of my builds look like shit. But I tell you what, they'll outperform a lot of other people's builds that are pro builds that look fucking immaculate compared to my shit looking build. My shit looking build will actually outperform it. Just because who gives a fuck if it look like your wick looks good, as long as your coils and everything else is maintained perfect and your thing is wicked perfect. If that wick is in there perfectly, who gives a fuck how it looks? I mean, that's kind of like judging somebody on how they look. Like, who gives a fuck what looks like? Because if it performs, then it performs. Okay, that's the best way to say it. Now we're gonna hit this with some juice, and we're actually gonna hit this with a company. This juice is amazing. Get y'all some Silverback. I tell you what, there's not a one of these that I have not tried in the past couple of weeks. I've been trying them all. That has not been bad. I bought this 3 days ago. This bottle's almost empty. After 2 more tanks, this thing will be done. This is Amy. This is a vanilla bean peanut butter brittle caramel. Best tasting fucking juice I've had in a minute. They got another one though too. It's like strawberry milkshake that tastes exactly like McDonald's strawberry milkshakes. And see, now we got a couple drops on there. Let me turn my damn mod back on. Got some vapors, and see how it sucks it, you know, right down. You put a couple on there. Yeah, it sits there, sucks the juice down. Means actually it's juicing pretty well, so we're going to get that going. And a lot of people think, like, once it's juiced up, that your cotton kind of like sinks down more, because cotton can collapse. Don't get me wrong, it can collapse. But once it's juiced up properly, and you know everything's good to go, your wick actually expands, like it becomes bigger. So that's why it's actually not bad to do a little bit of a thinner wick on there, since it's such a small port and you get a lot of dry hits off of here. So if you need to go smaller, go a little bit smaller, because it will expand. By far will expand. Alright, at the low wattage, looks like we're good to go, so we're going to kick it up and check. So we're reading at a 0.19 ohm, which at a 0.19 ohm, I'll put it on like 55 watts. Oh, firing perfectly. Okay, so now we're going to put some juice on there. Make sure there ain't no dry spots, but holding it down for a couple seconds. No dry spots. Not at all. Looking perfect. Alright, so. Yep. Next step. Them 2 screw plates. You notice how there's 2 little notches that are right there. So, and you got 2 little notches on your chimney. So you're literally going to line them up. And drop her down. And see, I'm running a little bit too much juice, or a little bit too much wick on the one side. I thought that corner looked a little off, actually, and I knew it did. And that's why we cut it the way we do. So now you can come in and kind of, bam, take that little bit off, bam. Like I said, you want to trim it up like giving it a haircut. Bam, bam. Be like old Admiral Lagasse off TV. Bam! Alright, now after you're done doing that, you want to hit that button again. Make sure you ain't getting no dry spots again. Alright, now let's put this chimney on. Chimney on. Oops, shit. Let's line that up. Sit right on there. Perfect. Alright, and then on top of that, actually, you're going to put your glass bulb. It just sits on there for now. Take your other piece, that is the one with the logo, and you're going to, like, slowly put it on there, okay? I don't know how many times I got to tell people this. Put that on there, and slowly turn it so you're not, like, off when you're screwing something on, like some people do, and then they end up, like, fucking up the threads. and just screw it on. And the cool thing is when you're taking this apart too, this is your airflow piece right here. Like, it actually literally just pops off. You can just pop it right back on legitly. It's actually a pretty good concept. Mine's not wanting to go back on for some reason. Piece of shit. Nah, just fucking around. This ain't no piece of shit. Slap it right back on. Bam! In there. Then the only thing is just your top. So at this point, what you do is you take, and I might not even get 2 bottles of juice out of that. I think this is going to be my last tank of juice out of this bottle of Amy, so yeah, I might get 2. Highly doubt it, but. And then you just set your top on. Quarter turn. Airflow on top instead of on the bottom. Then you got same airflow on each side. What it is on one side, it is on the other side. 25 milliliter tank with a 4 milliliter bubble glass, all wicked up inside with a 1.9. Yep, 1.9 ohm coil. Low profile drip tip on top. I can't remember how much it is in diameter. Running it on a drag 3 at about 55 watts. Perfect flavor. But I tell you what, if you're new to even RTAs, even though it is a simple one to mess with, but also a pretty technical pain in the ass to deal with because of the dry hits, don't get it. But if you actually know what you're doing, but you're still new to mesh, go ahead and still get it, because even if you know what you're doing and you've been doing builds on like RDAs for a while, you'll know how to fix your shit. But when it comes down to it, for the Zeus X RTA mesh by Geek Vape, which we all know is a pretty big company, pretty famous company, they make some damn good products coming from the Legend 2, the X, the Boost, the X that had that one really fancy ass big old glass screen, the new touchscreen one that's out. The Legends were phenomenal. The Solo was badass. A single 18-1650 battery mod that goes to 100 watts. Like, I ran a TFV16 on that thing with like a quad core fucking coil in it. At like 80 watts consistently. Yeah, the batteries died pretty quick, but that thing was a fucking beast for being a Solo with one battery. So there's not much that Geek Vape has made that I haven't seen that actually is good, or that I don't have that is actually good. Like, the Legends are badass, but for comparison of this tank, for anything that Geek Vape has, I wouldn't even compare it to any Geek Vape tank, even though they made it. This thing has such good capacity, such good build, such good airflow, and such good taste to me. I would probably compare this to like my Mad Hatter, my Dead Rabbit, even the Nord 4 from Smock, and the Nord 2 and Smock products we all know fucking leak and break all the damn time. Sorry, Smock, but it's true. Fix your shit and you'd have good products. I mean, your shit looks cool. Some of it is pretty good built, but fix your leaking problem. But for comparison, like, I would say I would compare this honestly to like a U-Whale kind of tank, or a Horizon kind of tank, or even, well, fuck, the Mesh Pro, the M Pro. Like, this tank has got airflow for days. Like the Freemax M Pro, it's got airflow and good flavor like the Fire Loop 2. The TFV16s, even though they're Smock, I mean, they had good airflow and good fucking flavor in them. This is like right up there with them. I would rate this out of my ratings like a 5 out of 5. Honestly, just a pain in the ass build, so I would really knock a 0.5 off in there, give it a 4.5. But I'm not even going to do that, because if you know what you're doing, which you should by now if you've been vaping for years, and sorry my camera's wiggling, it's a damn good tank. the fucking flavor in the building this thing is amazing. And as cheap as what it is, and it's Geek Vape, go get it. The only thing that sucks is actually it's so good you burn through a whole fucking bottle of juice in the daytime. But this is the red style. There it is on the 3. I mean, on the Drag 3. It's just a good fucking tank. Like I said, 25 millimeter around. Don't remember the height. 4.5 milliliter. No, the other one's 4.5. This one's a 5 milliliter with a chimney inside, and then the barrel that goes over top of the chimney. This piece here, airflow for days, that actually can go around. Or no, it doesn't round robin actually. What it is on this side is on this side, and it's amazing airflow. Quarter turn on that. As you can see, it's got two wells inside to actually put your liquid. Pretty nice bore on that. Got a low profile drip tip. Inside the contents is actually worth it too. And the airflow on it, it's pretty good. I mean, but me, I'm going to probably about quarter turn her off because I like mine a little restricted. And let's check her out. Now, see, I'm using a pretty thin juice, though, too, that's like a 50-50, so I'm not getting a lot of cloud, but if you put a 70-30 inside of here, like I did the other day, this thing gets amazing clouds. Okay, but this is pretty good. Phenomenal. But that is the Zeus X RTA Mesh. Mox Opal out. Peace.